Anyway, with that, I'm delighted to introduce Sherri Tafoya with Custom Blinds and Design, and I don't think I could introduce her any better than Don did, so I'm just gonna turn it over to her.
No pressure, right? What's your favorite radio station? I'm going to challenge you. Let me give you the answer. I think it's WIFM. Have you ever heard of that station?
What's in it for me?
What's in it for me? This is for Janine and our friend in the back. If you want to pass that back. So I want to share with you today, what I want to share is I want to help what's in it for you, like not all about me. And so starting a business is kind of like having a kiddo. 24/7 responsibility, thankless job, pulls at your heartstrings, very expensive, and there's a lot of pooped diapers. Really? I mean, seriously. You go on vacation, you need a sitter. You go on vacation, the business doesn't leave you. Somebody's got to watch over it, right? The first trip I took, I had to find somebody, a client, to answer the phone because I didn't have anybody. So we're going to talk today about, like, I started the business right about 20 years ago right now. I was in a funk. I was in sales. I was in radio, and I called on business clients, which really helped me learn about business, honestly, if you're asking the right questions. And I had those mornings when I just didn't want to get out of bed and make a call. If any of you have been there, those of us that are entrepreneurs, there's just challenges, right? So on a particular morning, I have 4 boys who my husband and I have 6 children, but 4 that really got to spend the time with me. And I'll just share with you about that time what my front porch might have looked like. But I would do the dance. I would get up in the morning, get the kids off to school, go do my sales, take them to pick them up, get them home, get to the sitter, whatever. And then I would run to work, and I would clean up at work, and I'd run back down to my car. Well, one particular day on my journey, I did the dance. I call it running in heels backwards. I love heels. And got down to my car, no keys. And I was panicked. Okay, I ran back upstairs, and it's, I was at a group of radio stations with 2 stories at least. I ran back up, looked for my keys, do the dance, rush down, no keys. Finally, I realized I'm always in a jacket. This is my cover. When I'm at home, I'm mom, but this is my work cover. I usually have a pocket. See, here's my keys. Well, I didn't have a pocket that particular day. So what I did as a cheat, I would stick my keys down into my skirt. Well, that particular day, the keys just kept working themselves down. I finally found them, all right? So I got my keys out, got home, and I'm rushing in the door frantically. My 12-year-old, Quinn at the time, was 12, saw me rush in the door, and he said, Mom, slow down. And I said, Quinn, help me pray about a business that I can do from home. And that literally, not that it wasn't on my mind. You don't just wake up in the morning and decide. But we put down pet grooming, we put down lawn service, we put down window cleaning, and custom blinds came to the forefront. I lived on the north side of 31st and Old Cheney, modest home. And back in 2000, Ben knows where that is, Williamsburg had these, what I would call mansions when I'm in my modest home, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they have all these windows. Oh, they probably use a designer. But the shading company prevailed, and Quinn and I set out with a business card we made literally overnight and door hangers. I did not have any money to go invest in a business. I lined up my, so it's going to be a shop at home. I just wanted to clear $500 a week. I didn't have some great big business plan. I wanted to clear $500 a week so that I could be home with my kids. So my goal was, I'm going to do this for a year, and work my full-time job, and hopefully be able to quit my full-time job in a year. So we took out the door hangers, we wrote the addresses down, and I had them packed away on a piece of paper. Heaven forbid I would call someone. So my friends and family, which is all of us who are entrepreneurs know a lot of that's how we get started, bought some shades for me, I was able to pursue that way, and then by, this was about February of almost 20 years ago. Must have been middle of March. I came to my husband must have been a beautiful Saturday morning because he was putting on his golf shoes. And I'm telling him how excited I am about this vision I have and how I'm going to be able to quit my full-time job with my perspective here. And he very calmly, he's the calm one in the family, he very calmly said, you know, you're going to have to prove to me this business is going to work because I just don't know why anybody would want to pay more than $5 for a blind. Well, did that set me on fire a bit? Maybe. So on Monday noon, I came home for lunch, and I found that list. And over the weekend, I found who went to the list, found phone numbers, and I started dialing for dollars. And I found the magic client, went to see them, pulled up at their front door after hours in my stocked minivan. Yes, it was a minivan. And I said a prayer. God, please don't let me say something stupid. Please don't let me promise something I can't deliver. And just, get me out of here in a safe mode. And 2 months later, that client, I would love to have coffee and talk about that client scenario. But 5 years later, they would come to my open houses just in pride. So that really catapulted me to be able to give my notice on Good Friday of 2000. I look back and think, what was I thinking? But I gave my notice and pursued forward. My main motivation was I did not want to go back into a sales job. And if you think that being your own boss is freeing, it is, but it's far more responsibility, as you well know. And so also, if you are your own, this is my tips, okay? If you're your own source of income, I would challenge that you're not an entrepreneur, you just have a job. And I worked for a lunatic. So it was very much part of me, like I just said about the 24/7 like a family. So I worked hard for a few years. I'd follow the installer on Saturdays. We put up the shades. We go to the next. One day, my guy Joe would follow me. One day, I went into a dead end area and I turned around and got to the house. I said, Joe, I'm so sorry. I took you to that dead end. He goes, he's again not like me. He's very calculated. That's okay. It's the first time in 4 years I've been behind you that you haven't hit a curb. And I hit curbs. He goes, uh-huh. So I've only hit a couple curbs since, and I know it now when I hit it. So in about 2005, I just couldn't keep up with the business. It had grown, so I hired a couple of employees. And we opened a showroom. The day that we opened a showroom, we didn't know who was going to answer the phone. We didn't know who was going to go on calls. One day, when we figured that out, one day I had the phones, and Diane was working with me at the time, and she came back, and the lights were off, and the door was locked. And she came and she goes, Sherri, the lights are off, the door's locked. I said, I know, I can't do it. I mean, I was just done. Like, sometimes this baby that we have, right, they have the flu or whatever, and you're like, I just can't do this anymore. But I really did have a great team. So in 2008, we expanded to a second location in Omaha. In 2008, we moved our location in Lincoln to another location. And then in 2008, October, the phones pretty much stopped ringing. So I thought, oh, election will come. It'll all be good. No, it really wasn't. In March of 2009, I called my banker and said, hey, I need to extend my line of credit for payroll next month. And he said, Sherri, you're out of line of credit. What? No, you don't understand. You're out of line of credit. So I had to have a meeting with my team of, at the time now I'm up to 8 employees. And I had to tell them, I can make this payroll, but I'm out of line of credit. We had a conversation. We didn't let anybody go. We cut back some hours for some people. And I will share with you that in the month of March, Susan, who had joined my team in March in 2006, she had a $100,000 month. And I just didn't look back. We made payroll, and we watched our dollars more tightly. When you open 2 new locations, the expenses go out, and you don't realize that they're not going to come in, right? So that really when you want to talk about the pros and cons and challenges of a business, I'm sharing you the real deal, right? So we've been, really blessed. It took us 3 years. Any of you that were in business at the time would probably share that timeline. But it was 2012 before we started seeing growth. Fortunately, we opened our Omaha showroom in time to help offset the expenses. It really worked out that way. So I would share too that when the recession hits, even though Lincoln was fine for the most part, low unemployment, but we're conservative. So when the media is telling you people can't feed their families, I guarantee you they're not going to call and buy a luxury shade because we're a luxury product. So fast forward a few more years. Now Quinn, who was 12, has been working with me. He's now doing about everything. Master installer, does power shades. And then fast forward a couple more years, and his friend Jess came to work for me part-time. They ended up getting married. No, he didn't meet her on the job. He brought her along. So they've got husband, who's a silent but not silent partner, me, my son, his wife. Can you see all this family business stuff going on? I will share with you that we went to family business counseling. It was necessary, and it was very valuable. I love my kids dearly. They grew up on this business, but I needed shored up. And Jess then, Quinn's wife, brought to me a couple years later. Quinn then went on to do other things. It was too much. It was just a lot. So he went on to do other things, but Jess stayed on to run my showrooms. And she brought, one day, Quinn would work part-time. They went to do an install at a commercial project. It was Hobby Lobby corporate. And they're doing the install, and Jess is with Quinn, and she sees this book on the wall, room after room, and it said traction. And so then the next day she went with Quinn. No, the next day she did a favor for me, and I'd been to Fire Spring on a tour. Have you been to Fire Spring, anybody? Yeah. So the ladder, they're just a whole different dynamic back in, 2014. And they have a spa area at Fire Spring, and it smells so good. But this little girl named Molly, who my son Nicholas was there as an intern, and he brought me for a shout out day. Take your mom to work day. Anyway, I was really intrigued by the company. So I said, Jess, I would love it if you would just meet with Molly and find out what's going on over there. Something's up at Fire Spring. They're doing things. Well, she kind of drug her heels because she's not the visionary that I am. She's this, A personality, what am I going to do with that? But she's obedient. So finally, the day after the Hobby Lobby, she went to Fire Spring and met with Molly. And they had a great conversation, but she sees traction on Molly's shelf and asked more about it. And what traction, it's a business model. I don't care what business model you find, but when you get to past 5 to 8 employees, you need one. We didn't have an accountability chart. We didn't have job descriptions. It was not. We all were a team, but we were running in our own parallel lanes. So we brought traction along. We set up core values. I will also say to you that trying to bring a model like that from where we were, let's go back to kids. It's like trying to teach a teenager to make their bed in the morning, clean the sink out, put their shoes away. It was very challenging for us to transition from this free-flowing model to an actual organized model. We also had to set number goals, which I'd never done. We were always fortunate, other than in those few years of the recession, I call it, to just grow our business. But now we wanted to put numbers to it and share the numbers. Well, that was a little bit much for me because my heart is for people and service, and money's the barometer. So in my mind, that was a flip. So what we did is we attached the number for all of our purposes, but we attached the number to a benefit. So for every $150 that we sell in shades, we donate a diaper. So so far that's been going now, we're into our 4th year. We're getting close to the $100,000 diaper, or the 100,000 diapers that we've donated. Every month, based on our sales, we pick a charity. And I think this month it's Assure in Omaha. So we split between our Omaha and Lincoln showrooms. And we have our team deliver them. We put diapers at the front door, and clients come in and they say, are you doing a different business here? Do you have a daycare? I'm like, no, that's our mission that we choose to want to do. So that's my, I guess I call it story. I'm now at 18 full-time employees. I have to have that for just like the traction program. I'm just saying, you get to so many employees, you just can't do it like you did. And if I'm like probably very typical of a business person, entrepreneur, is I didn't start it with that business model. I'm not like Steve Jobs. But I feel very blessed and humbled that I've been able to get through that in that way. So I've got just a couple tips, and then I'll let you guys ask questions if you want. My family now, I have to share, I'm pretty proud of them. This is my family and this is my work family, and you'll figure out which one's which. So I have my top 10 list for aspiring entrepreneurs. I'll find it here. Oh, let me first digress. I mentioned that we set up core values as a team, and we use the FAITH acronym. So F is family. We're all in this together, welcome home. And what I like about it is it starts with our internal team. I used to say with my kids, if you can't play nice at home, you don't get to go down the street to play with your friends. And we say that in our business model at home, inside. You have to play nice, or we don't get to go out. I don't care how much you sell. I don't care how important you think you are. That's how we play. So agape, I love my job. We love our clients, and you love what we do. Intellectual capital. We know our stuff. You can think shadings are like no big deal, but they are very, very involved, very intricate. We now do power. We do hardwired power. We can have Alexa tell you how to raise your shades. Your iPad can do it. But every shade is different. People come in and they don't even know how to take the bracket out. They're so complicated sometimes. Trust. We do what we say we're going to do, and we've got your back. Confidence. We're like Southwest. We made up a word, and it's humfident because we're humbly confident of what you do. We do. You have to be confident. Can't be arrogant. That's not going to work. So we follow this, and we all live by it, and we talk about it. Like we share an example. Are you doing okay on time?
Yes, you're fine.
Justin, one day, so Justin's our installer. He's been with us for 6 years, and he's headed to meet Susan at a client, and the townhome's over here, but Susan's over here, and they're waving him over at the door, and he's like, what? So he walks over to the door, and it's the neighbor with our client. No, it's our client is at the neighbor's, and she said, my neighbor, she's in the backyard, she fell, and she won't let us call the ambulance. Will you come around and help get her inside? Well, first of all, we should have not done that, okay? That's the first thing, but let's get past that. Justin walks around, he talks to her, he goes to pick her up, and she says, get your hand off my butt. And he said, well, Mrs., that's not my hand, and the neighbor says, that's mine, Lily. And so he carries her in, puts her on the couch, and we go next door to install our shades. So we say that we shine our light, make someone's day joyfully. That's our team model that we follow. Because if you just sell a shade every day, you know, that's not of enough value as to how we see it. Okay, so my top 10 list for aspiring entrepreneurs. Folks on the Gap. Jeremy was a perfect example last week. Jeremy Furrow, whoever was here last week, or 2 weeks ago, Roastbusters. It'll be fun to watch his journey, because whether he fails forward with this, failing forward is key, because you're going to fail in order to succeed. He's going to do something, and I'm going to have fun watching Jeremy. It's going to be fun. Do you consider yourself a salesperson? And if you're an entrepreneur and you say no, you need to go buy a few sales books, because if you can't sell your vision, you're probably not going to move out of the box. Maximize your strengths, manage your weaknesses. Your greatest gift is your greatest asset. And it's also your greatest weakness. So I have a gift, if you want to call it that, of being a quick thinker and action. I do. My greatest weakness is you want to talk to me before you finish your sentence. I've already come up with an answer. So I have to work on backing off, listening, putting down my things, eye-to-eye contact, and it's not easy for me. So that's a huge weakness of mine. The buck stops with you. You can't blame your banker, you can't blame your parents, you can't blame your spouse, you can't blame the weather. Really, it stops with you. And when you really take that responsibility, life will be a lot easier for you and the people you live with. I say business loans aren't necessarily evil, as you can hear my story. But they're necessary because a lot of businesses fail for lack of capital. Just be really smart about it. When I called in businesses for radio, I could tell you in 30 seconds, maybe a little longer, who was going to make it and who wasn't. Because if they were more concerned about what light fixture or what fork they were going to serve instead of how they're going to make sales, I knew they were going to get so upside down they wouldn't make it through that. And that was just heartbreaking because I still had to take their money. It was hard. And then I would watch it. I didn't like that I had that, quote, vision to see that. Very hard to see. If you have a thought and you want to start a business, I heard this and I believe in it. If you have an idea, don't stop with it, go with it. Double the expense, cut the income in half. And if it still looks good on paper, you just might have something. A dream is a goal with a deadline. So get off your chair and go get what you want. Do you have grit? Have you heard the book Grit by Angela Duckworth? If you haven't, I'd encourage you to get it. There's a couple chapters, as Diane would say, that are a little bit sleepy, but I'll tell you what, she's got it down. You have to have resilience. You have to have tenacity. You have to be able to take a no and not take it personally, because you just have to get out there and do it. You're going to get what you receive. What you expect is going to face you. I just assure you that. If I think you walked by me and you were ignoring me, you know what? You don't know who I am. Why would you be ignoring me? Because that's my self-consciousness. Nothing really about you. Maximize you. How much is your time worth? That's the other thing I've seen with small business entrepreneurs. They just can't let go of the funds, and they do everything. Well, pick your high payoff activity. What is it? Take those low payoff activities. If you're doing your high payoff, you will benefit by paying somebody to do the lows. If you're in a business that most of your things you don't like delegate and elevate. Do what you like it, but you don't. You do what you like. Down here is don't like it, don't want to do it. Make sure your businesses don't like it, don't want to do it, or it's going to be tough for you to live through that. Ready, Fire, Aim. There's a book by Michael Masterson. Hard to find because he's well retired. Amazing book. But he says, figure out your idea, check it out, test it before you sit and dot all the I's and cross the T's before you get out the door to sell something. Just do it. Get out there and do it. And then back to your favorite radio station. It's WIFM. As long as you give people what they want, you are going to get what you want, and you're going to get to sleep at night because you are rewarded by what you're doing. The last blessing for me is Quinn and Jess reached out to me in November. They've been in Austin for almost a year. Worked for me for years. I have to say it was probably a good parting for all of us. We just kind of needed some space. And they reached out in November and said, hey, we'd like to start a shading company in Austin. Would you like to give us some advice? The advice I gave them was the 24/7 kid poop diaper. I mean, that just says it all, right? They have since started a shading company in Austin, and now we're working on a model together to do a startup to either dealer or franchise it and see where that takes us to take this model across the country. So I'm excited to see where that takes us. So I'm back to the fun part of growing a business, because it's a lot more fun, you guys. It's hard to believe that now, but it's a lot more fun to grow a business than it is to maintain it. There you go. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Yes.
Question. I see you sell Hunter Douglas. Is that the only product line you sell?
That's a great question. And yes, by choice it is. We do one outdoor shading, but what I learned years ago on that initial end, you have to represent a company that represents what you stand for. So if I say to you that shade is guaranteed for life, needs to be guaranteed for life. When I had other companies come to me and say, we're just as good as Hunter Douglas, but we don't charge as much. Okay, I tried it. I had to ship a blind back, took them 6 weeks, got the blind back, had a scratch in it. They charged me twice, not messing with it.
So are you a franchise for them?
That's a good question too. I am my own business, but I aligned with Hunter Douglas with what's called a gallery program. So I get special incentives. One of those is, and I couldn't do this on my own, when you buy a shade, let's say I convince you that you want to try this new funky shade that you would love. And you go, okay, I'll try it, but I'm not sure. If you don't like the look, color, feel, touch, lift system, they ask you to live with it for 21 days. And then they don't give your money back. It's a $75 restocking fee. You get to pick something else. If it's the same price, it's as the other shade, it's an even Steven. If it's more, you just pay the difference. If it's less money, they don't give your money back. That's how we communicate. We use it once in a while, not always, because we have intellectual capital and we're good at what we do, right? But it's there for our team and for our clients that can enjoy that. But we do choose to represent only Hunter Douglas because I have clients. Doug Schwann lives on Southern Light Drive that I sold him in 2002. Came in and he needed a part. We're still doing Kruger Development lines in their apartments repaired. I mean, they get slats, they get brackets, they last forever. So that's the why, that they stand behind me so I can stand behind my clients.
And one other question.
Yeah.
You said that you got family business counseling.
Yes.
Where did you find that? And is that somebody that should come and talk to our group sometime?
Oh, it would be very valuable. We picked a gentleman named Brad Riddle. We might have gotten his name from Berean Church, I'm not sure. We chose to pick a Christian counselor. But there are mediation services. Honestly, I've encouraged sometimes my business associates to have mediation, especially in a small business. You guys, where does your employee go? I've outsourced. Georgia Glass is her name, but I've told my team, look, if you ever have an issue, talk to Georgia. She'll keep it confidential, but I understand it's awkward working for a family business. Who do you talk to? And then she'll help sort that through. But that's a great question. Yes.
Through the Thrive implementation, did you lose any people that just couldn't make the change?
I lost one girl, and honestly, that's the good part of that is it weeds out who isn't working. I would say if we would have hired her later and the system would have been in place, but she didn't adapt well to the change because frankly, we weren't perfect at it. We did not adapt great with the change. I wish now that I could have her back. She was brilliant, but I'm not sure. She's had about 3 different jobs since then, so she just could be that personality that's still sorting through and not satisfied. But that's a great question. I will tell you, since we did it, it's so much easier. Every quarter, we go through their job description, which I never had. We go through their job description. We talk to them every quarter. We say, let's go through your job description. Let's make sure it's still relevant, what you'd like, what you don't like. We call this delegate and elevate. If you don't like something in your job and it's draining you, we got to do something about that. And then once a year, I started this last year, I have what I call straight talk with Sherri, because I'm not now meeting with every team member. And so once a year, I just meet up with them to say, hey, how's it going? I'm not usurping their manager. And then what we've decided to do is, because we meet quarterly, in the quarters, I'm also going to meet with their team lead for a few minutes, just to show my face. I talk to them all the time. I just can't have business complications to usurp my managers. Yes, Jeannie?
So you mentioned when you first started, you were working out of your van.
Yes,
Right? And
yeah.
so then, can you talk about how long was it before you opened your showroom?
Yep.
And then when you decided to open a second one in Omaha, like how did you know that was time? And
Yep, great question.
Hiring, how do you know?
So every year, and I'll just share with you that every year I've been awarded a trip with Hunter Douglas from the very first year, and that was my dream. Like, you got to have a goal. The first year was the don't blink 3-day cruise. Literally, if you've ever been on a 3-day cruise, you're only on for 1 full day, but I didn't care. So each time my husband and I would come back from a trip, we'd put on the napkin if we could open a showroom. And finally in 2005, we came back and we then opened our showroom. But that is wasn't easy at all. But we had just grown the level of business. The big mo is what you call that. You do your job and you get good people, and people love what I've learned. People love to help the underling, right? They are so excited for you. They want to tell their friends about their great secret. So then the second one was 2008, Janine. The first one, my partner, my silent, not so silent partner, we battled. with getting that first one open. The second one, he was right on top of it, and we were very quick to open.
Okay, can I ask a follow-up?
Of course.
So in 2008, when you opened the second one, was it just like, oh my gosh, I am making so much money, I'm just gonna, I don't even know what to do with it, I guess I'm gonna open up a second location?
Not at all. Mine was that it's much more fun to grow a business than it is to maintain it. And I would have people that would call me from Omaha and then have me come there, and I saw the opportunity in Omaha. There was a need to be filled. So would I call that a smart move or not? I don't know, Janine, but it wasn't that at all. It was really a barometer if I'm just excited about that venture and that opportunity. The business has never been about money, although it's always about money. But I would say when you do the job, the business will come and the revenue will come when you put it in the right order. But that's a good question, but it was just my challenge of wanting to take it on somewhere else. Yes, sir.
In the summer, I spend a lot of time on a mower, and I'm usually listening to a radio, and I must have heard your radio spots about 1 billion times this summer on the station I listen to. How effective has radio been about, for marketing?
Yeah, that's another great question. Susan, who I told you about, one year she came to me and she said, I heard you on the radio this weekend, ad nauseum. And then I put Susan on the commercials. I didn't hear that anymore. It's been so effective. You just have to pick what you want to do for medium, but we chose radio. And my husband, if you haven't heard him, I don't expect that you have, I tell stories, true stories. So we met a client, she's going to have a baby, and babies come when they want, and they want to get the window covered. Are you a lifter or a tilter? Do you like to leave your blinds open and close or lift them up and down? Well, we run those ad nauseum. I can walk into a place and it's like they know me. Or they'll come in and they'll quote me on my comments. Radio is unique, it's very affordable, but if you don't have the right message, it crushes me when people say, I tried radio and it didn't work. Baloney. You just don't have the right message. And if you have the right message, we just started advertising on AM the last month. My husband's an AM guy, and he hears a lot of the .coms. So we do a challenge right now that says, you're hearing a lot about buying blinds on the internet. Let's delve into this. It doesn't fit the window. It doesn't match on color. It took you all weekend to install a shade. We can take care of that for you. And I can't believe the comments now. It's a new audience because we haven't been on AM, but I literally walk in and they trust me because that trust has already been, it's not like I'm starting over and they don't know who I am.
Did you do that on your own, or did you use a marketing firm to help you break into radio?
She's so good at questions. That silent, not very silent partner of mine is a radio guy. So he's my marketing advertising guy. So he knows his stuff and knows how to buy a radio. He has other clients. He had Right Jewelry, who's going out of business now because they're retiring. He does some things for Hy-Vee, Aqua Systems. So I might be his biggest client. I'm not sure, but that's where that comes from.
Other questions? If not, Sherri, thank you so
You
much.
bet. I have one. Did people?
You have a drawing?
I have one drawing, and Ben hopes he wins it.
Okay,
It's a
everybody-
$100 gift card.
Put your cards in there quick. In the meantime, I want to thank you
You
for
bet.
being here.
Yes.
And we want to present you with a thank you, a Focus Suite mug.
Great.
So thank you.
Appreciate it.
And again, join us next week for coffee with Nick Kastner with the Commonwealth Podcast will be here. So join us next week. If you're not getting our newsletter and want to be reminded of the speakers every Monday, make sure I get your card before you leave. Please hang around as long as you like after coffee. Meet somebody new before you go. Exchange business cards. You're welcome to hang around in the space as long as you like. So thanks again for
Did I
being
let you
here.
down?
And we will
Thank
conduct
you.
our drawing here in a moment.
No way.
The $100,000, you can put that with any part of my story with March of 2008, which was like a defining moment, running in my door. But also, any entrepreneur, you would want to aspire, work with $100,000 to start, right? So hopefully that'll put that, either eat it or put it up for your motivation.
You know, I loved her comment too. If you're budgeting for your new business and you're trying to estimate the profit loss, double your expenses and half your revenue. That's
That's about it.
scarily accurate.
Sad but true.
Yes.
I'm Sherri. I'm Sherri.
No, S-H-E-R-R-I.
R-R-I. Uh-huh.
So, and I also,
Okay.
And you know what, hon? There should be a little gift there with my business card in it, too.
what I thought communicated.
Graceful. Nina. There you go. You bet.
All right, thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Sherri, you did an outstanding job on that skill.
I can, they're all the way
You
out.
were a
in Hastings,
20.
Oh, my
so,
goodness.
I would have to,
Appreciate it.